Hey, it's Christine with 90, and we are going to go over the VTO. The VTO is located in your left navigation here, and it consists of 3 tabs. There is Vision, Traction, and your Swat also lives here as well. The VTO is still broken down by each individual team, so your leadership team encompasses some aspects. Your individual teams can have their own unique VTO in many ways, which I'll go over in just a second. And then there's also this concept of a project. So in the settings area where you go to create teams, if you have designated something is a project by turning that on, it's just a little check mark you put next to it. It means that that team has all the same functions, it just doesn't have a VTO. So that's why it's grayed out here, is you've turned off the ability. If you'd like to turn that back on, all you need to do is go to the settings area in the bottom left and uncheck project next to that individual team. So let's talk a little bit about what's on your leadership team versus those other team VTOs. All the sections will be the same, but the leadership team controls the core values, the core focus, and the 10-year target. So in the core values, core focus, and 10-year target, you'll notice at the leadership team level, you have these edit options on each section, so you can go in and make changes there as needed, just like you can the other areas. But when we go to an individual team, it's going to be automatically cascaded from the leadership. So they don't have the ability to edit these, but they will see all of the information, and that is by default. So no additional settings or anything you need to turn on for that specifically. You'll notice while I am on this individual team, they do have the ability to create their own 3-year picture, they create their own marketing strategy, and then even on the traction page and the SWAT page, they have their own 1 year, 90 days, long-term issues, and so on. So if we go back to leadership, the information that you enter when it comes to marketing strategy, 3-year picture, and everything else is very individual to the leadership team. So what I mean by that is if somebody in your account does not have access to the leadership team, they're not going to see any of that VTO information that you've entered beyond just the core values, core focus, and 10-year target. The one exception to that is if you do toggle on this option, share VTO with all teams. What that does is it says to the other teams, hey, you can view the VTO leadership information. You can still have your own personal one, but you can also see the leadership team. So this is toggled on. So if I go back to my individual team, I do have my own ability to have my 3-year picture, my traction page, but you can see up here at the top, I can toggle on View Leadership Team VTO, and now all of my sections are going to be cascaded from the leadership team. Again, I can't edit anything, but it's just view only permission so I can see and have access to that. So by default, that is off, so you don't have to worry about that if you would like to restrict what you're sharing. And the other thing I will mention when it does come to sharing the VTO is that on this traction page, your long-term issues by default are not shared. So on every long-term issue that's on the leadership team level, let me go back here. You will have a public toggle on here. So the public toggle, if you hover over it, you'll see it tells the system, I will let this specific issue be visible to all of my other teams when the leadership team VTO is being shared. So by default, when we're creating a long-term issue, that public toggle is off, everything is going to be private. And then if I do decide to turn that on, it's saying, hey, when I do view those other teams, or do view the leadership VTO on those other teams, I can see that specific issue. So you can go through and mark any issues that you would like to share with the full company if you are sharing your VTO, just using that public toggle. Let's go back to the vision page. So now that we've covered sharing, when it comes to editing, it all works the same way, where all you do is use the edit icon in the top right corner of each button. You'll notice text options show up, there's plus signs to add new content, and so on. And that works the same way in each one of these sections. So you can press the edit. It opens up the ability to make changes. When it comes to measurables, these can be auto-pulled from existing measurables in your account, from your scorecard, or you can create new ones. So just like those 2 options that are on the data page right now. When it comes to what does it look like, or when we get to the 1-year plan, same thing. You can add new goals for the year, opens up the details, you can have a description in there. And then you also have the ability to check it off as done or not. So as you're going through the years, you can decide when things have been completed. Let's go to traction. A lot of the same content here when it comes to editing, revenue, profit, and measurables. And then same thing with your goals for the year, work the same way as we just looked at. If you would like to turn these into long-term issues so they can eventually become rocks, turn it right into a rock, you have that option here through the More Actions button. And then the one thing I will mention across the rock section, 1-year plan, and 3-year picture is your revenue, profit, and measurables all exist. All the descriptions are going to be the same. And what I mean by that is when I edit, the information that we're adding will be consistent. So if I want to add a 3rd location on here and split up my revenue by the amount of the different locations that we have for our business, you can see I just added location 3 and it came up here as well. So the values themselves are going to be individually unique. So maybe we just need 90K there. And then I can add, maybe in a year, we want to be at 150K. So you can see we're tracking the same revenue, profit, and measurables across all 3 of those time frames. The values are unique, and that's so that you can have those numbers building up into one another and making sure that you'll hit those 3-year goals that you've set. Now, if I keep going down into the rocks area, there's no plus sign here because these rocks are just automatically pulling from the rocks you've already created in your account. And if you'd like to create new ones, all you do is use the create button up here in the top right. So if you want to add long-term issues, same thing. If I would like to add a rock, I can just toggle to that rock view. And it's turned on as a company rock because the company rocks are specifically the only ones that are going to show up on the VTO. Oops. So let's go to SWAT finally. The SWAT area just has your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Very easy to add new lines here, so you can go through and do that. This is a portion of the meeting that's in your annual planning agenda, so you will do it during your annual planning session. It's just listed here as a resource, so during the year, if you wanted to come in and turn any things into issues, make to-dos out of them, anything like that, it is an easy access to this resource. The final thing I'll go over is this archive option. So if you at any point want to save a copy of your VTO, you can archive a copy of this. If you want to view any past versions, so let's go back to June 10th, it'll pull up the past version for you. And so every single quarterly meeting that you run, it'll auto save a copy. And then of course you have the option to just do that ad hoc like we just saw through that archive option. So if I come to Vision, Traction, any of these pages, I have the date and time stamp for what we're looking at here. So it saves that instance in time of whatever your VTO looked like then. And then you can come up here to the top and go back and view your team's VTO. All right, that covers just about everything. Please let me know if you have any questions. Of course, reach out through the bottom right chat button if you need anything else. Thanks.